المعوقين اليوم ده مفترض بيكون في حاجات مميزة كده بيعملوا لهم. أنا ما أعرف يعني هم ده يعرف شنو ما قدر يوفر أي حاجة، ما قدر يذكر ناس الماتوا، ما قدر يذكر حتى ناس العوض، ولا يقدر يعمل أي خطوة من أجل إنه الناس الطلبوا بلد ده برا الأمان. هذه مشكلة. أنا ما أعرف يعني هل البرنامج بيكون له اتفاق ولا ما عنده، ولا ناس بيكونوا بعد زي ما إذا الاستقلال فات مرة فات. فنتمنى إنه إن شاء الله على الحكومة اسمها في الإدارة الشعب جنوب السودان عليك حسن من وده بتاع الاقتصاد وده بتاع التعليم وده بتاع الصحة ويدل عليك يشتغل من أجل لأنه بلد تعبان بالمناسبة. يعني أنا متوقع الحكومة مفترض يلف يشوف إنه يشوف الأسواق ذاته ويشوف الأحياء وشنو ده ما يشوفوه. الولد ناس تعبانين شديد عشان تلقى دول يلقى مويه يلقى أكل يلقى شنو مشكلة.
Sounds of the Week on iRadio. Your eye on South Sudan. Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, good afternoon. This is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. The Commission of Kajukeji County in Central Equatoria State says thousands of civilians have been displaced and several others feared dead following an alleged attack by the Ugandan People's Defense Forces in Kangabu Payam 2 yesterday. A lawmaker has called for the immediate summoning of the Minister of Finance and Planning and the Governor of the Bank of South Sudan to explain delays in salary payments for government workers, including MPs. And 3 men were stabbed to death in Morobo County, Central Equatoria State, by men in SSPDF uniform over the weekend. These stories and more coming to in this news bulletin with me, Baria Johnson, and now the news in detail. The Commission of Kajukeji County in Central Equatoria State says thousands of civilians have been displaced and several others feared dead following an alleged attack by the Ugandan People's Defense Forces in Kangabu Payam 2 yesterday. Jackson Wani said that Ugandan People's Defense Forces attacked the Buri Buma yesterday at around 3:30 p.m. to 5 a.m., resulting in clashes with the members of the South Sudan People's Defense Forces, SSPDF. Commissioner Wani says the attack was a result of border dispute. He said the clashes have displaced thousands. He is now appealing for humanitarian assistance to the displaced.
The UPDF entered our territory and they attacked our detach, which was in Nyainga Moda, in Boriboma yesterday at around 3:30 up to 5, up to 7 when they were in the area attacking the detach and then at the same time attacking the center, the trading center and the area. Just a border extension. The reason is nothing but border extension. They claim that is their area and therefore our people and the army there and our people must evacuate the area. That's the extension of border. There are casualties, but we have not yet got the real details of the casualties. Yes, I was told that dead bodies down, but not yet counted on both sides. Yes, not yet established how many of them, how many from our side and how many from the Ugandan side. Too many. The whole area, thousands of people displaced. As you are talking to me, RRC, the count has only around down to the ground and told their children who are abandoned even. There is a healthy center in Naingamoga. They are now at the healthy center. The small children are now looking for ways of how I can consult the churches and the bishops for those children to be acquitted, and then for time being they will take care of those the mothers are not known. They just run and leaving the children down. Some children at the healthy center there are 5. The least child is 7 months. Run with by a brother of also 10 months. Yeah, 7-month child.
There have been no confirmation of the alleged attack by the Ugandan army or the national government in Juba. A lawmaker has called for the immediate summoning of the Minister of Finance and Planning and the Governor of the Bank of South Sudan to explain delays in salary payments for government workers, including MPs. Speaking during a sitting of the Transitional National Legislative Assembly yesterday, Michael Roth said government employees have gone 2 weeks without receiving their salaries from the Bank of South Sudan and commercial banks. He said they have been visiting the banks but were told there was no cash.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my information بيتعلق بسحب المرتبات في حسابات في البنك المركزي والبنوك التجارية. مواطنين بتاع جنوبي السودان شغالين في حكومة وقوات نظامية وhonorable members والعاملين في برلمان حتى ماشيين اسبوعين بواجههم كلام سحب مرتباتهم في البنوك التجارية والبنك المركزي لجنوب السودان.
The lawmaker questioned the source of the delay and demanded accountability.
فنحن ده نعرف الزول اللي بيقولش ناس ده وزارة مالية ولا البنك المركزي. فنحن دايرين ناس تجيب الزول بتاع المالية ويجيبوا مدير البنك المركزي يجي يوضح لنا إنه المرتبات ما في دمنه حتى ناس عيانين ما بلقى مرتباتهم.
Rod urged the House to summon both officials to clarify the reasons behind the salary delays. His remarks come amid growing frustration across the country over delayed payments as inflation and the rising cost of living continue to affect citizens. 3 men were stabbed to death in Morobo County, Central Equatoria State by men in SSPDF uniform over the weekend. This is according to Scopas Lokule Andrea, a relative to one of the slain men. Andrea, who is an uncle to one of the deceased men, said the incident occurred on Sunday at about 3 p.m. in the Busia area, Kaya town. He said 4 men who were burning charcoal were attacked by men in uniform. According to Andrea, the attackers arrested 3 of the men and killed them in cold blood, while one managed to escape and reported the incident. He added that the slain victims were aged between 20 and 25. Andrea narrated to iRadio what happened this morning.
من 4 عيال علاقة بينهم قبل دي يلا واحد جزيرة منه يربوك يا بنتكلا ولا جماعة ضربوا يلا 3 دول من قطع كل كاس لقد تسكية سنيدة كسروا بيبقى هجار كل تايو يمكن كل قدام كله كسروا طبعا 3 كل إنكار لأنهم كمان جلسوا خبر ذا يصير يعني تقنية ميتين كيسا من جسي خبر ذا حاجة سكان ناس كان بقى جاجة يقول ميتين جسي Kalau tanda oleh tak aku, kalau tanda mesti tak aku, kalau tanda itu ada hak nama kita awak, apa mereka jepun bal, tak tanda. Ini kalau kami menjadi saya South Sudan, dia menjadi gomu Sudan, South Sudan mati Uganda. Jadi jauh dari satu ayat dia kuliah aspek South Sudan yang ramai.
The SSPDF is yet to comment on the allegations. The Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development says it is finalizing key legal frameworks and policies to guide land management in South Sudan. According to Undersecretary Engineer Louis Cord, the National Land Policy 2023 was approved by the Council of Ministers last year and is now awaiting for the 3rd and 4th readings in the Parliament. He said the delay is due to the late reopening of the National Legislature. He said the ministry has taken over the land registry from the judiciary and plans to introduce a digitalized system to prevent fraud and manipulation in land transactions. He added that the land registry will become the central hub for land records across the country, including Juba and the states. Engineer Louis also explained that the upcoming land policy will clearly define the responsibilities of national and state governments, local authorities and communities in land management. He pointed out that Juba's rapid expansion, land grabbing and informal settlement remain major challenges driven by insecurity, climate change and population movement. The Undersecretary was speaking in Juba on Monday.
The ministry is working on the legal frameworks and policies for land. The land policy is already completed, particularly on the executive level. That has been completed and has been passed by the Council of Ministers since last year, and it is now in the Parliament awaiting the last two readings, the third and the fourth. It should have been out by now, but because of the delay in opening the Parliament, that's why it has taken long. We are working and coordinating with the Parliament that immediately after the budget process, the next important policy to look into is the South Sudan National Land Policy 2023. The custody of land registry, you are aware of land registries now in the judiciary of South Sudan, has been brought to the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development by a resolution from the Council of Ministers. The ministry is in the process of implementing a state-of-the-art digitalized land registry that's going to be free of manipulation, free of fraud.
In November 2024, the Minister of Land, Housing and Urban Development, Michael Shanjek, officially presented the draft National Land Policy 2023 to the National Legislative Assembly. The document, which was earlier endorsed by the Council of Ministers, aims to create a sustainable and inclusive framework for land allocation and the protection of land rights for all South Sudanese. You are listening to iRadio Afternoon News. A lawmaker representing Panyikang County in the reconstituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly has expressed concern over the deteriorating security situation in the area, calling for urgent attention from the Parliament. Rebecca Joshua said the area, including its headquarters, Tunja, has been experiencing insecurity since March and April this year and resulted in dire humanitarian situation. She urged the Parliament to not only focus on Ulang and Nasir but also give equal attention to the security situation in Panyikang. Rebecca Joshua was speaking during a parliamentary session in Juba yesterday.
I believe that most of our states are suffering from the security situation, but the Right Honourable Speaker, allow me just to mention something about Upper Nile. When it comes to Upper Nile, and this for the information of the Parliament here, most of security issues that were of late being discussed were Olang Nasser in Upper Nile. But Panyikang County has not been in the picture. And I really want to raise that. I even raised it in Malakal when we traveled, because most of it was about Olang and Nasser, which we understand. It was very, very serious, and all of us were really sad about it. But Panyikang County also went through that very seriously throughout March and April, and until today, the headquarters, which is Tunja, is still in trouble. So I just want to articulate that so that we also, when we discuss maybe in our meetings, we remember that Panyikang County is also part of those counties in Upper Nile that are having problems.
In April 2025, Upper Nile Governor General James Kongchol reported clashes in Panyikang County, where he said South Sudan People's Defense Forces repelled armed attacks on Owichi village at the west bank of the White Nile. And finally, a medical expert is urging the public to get tested for hepatitis B, saying early diagnosis is key to eliminating the disease in the country. Dr. Anthony Mathiok Madut, the Executive Director of Friends of Humanity and a member of the World Hepatitis Alliance, said early screening is key to controlling the disease and preventing its spread. Dr. Madut appeal came as South Sudan marked the World Hepatitis Day yesterday. This year's theme, If I Die, Let's Break It Down, calls for the elimination of hepatitis by 2030 through public awareness, testing, vaccination and efforts to end stigma. He called on the public to get screened and educate their families to prevent the spread of hepatitis. He spoke to iRadio yesterday in an exclusive interview.
It is still a long way for us to eliminate hepatitis. But when we begin with the little, there is a high chance that we can move faster because our population is low. Yes, there are 4 structures, but we can use HIV structures that are already existing, and we make integration as the best way for us to use hepatitis elimination strategies move forward. The last one, as my recommendation to the citizen, hepatitis is preventable. Hepatitis is not a death sentence. Hepatitis is real. Let's move. Let's use whatever little we can have. There are available facilities. Even though they are at cost, you can still screen your family at this time. And this is the message I want to send to South Sudanese.
According to the doctor, nearly 10% of South Sudanese have hepatitis B and another 9.1% have hepatitis C. You're listening to iRadio News, and now for the regional and international news, we are joined by my colleague, Madrama James.
Thanks, my colleague Baria Johnson. Let's have a look at some of the stories trending in Africa and beyond. Kidnappers in Nigeria have killed at least 35 people they have abducted from a village in northern Zamfara state despite ransoms being paid for their release, a local official told the BBC. In recent years, criminal gangs in the region known in the country as bandits have taken to kidnapping people as a means to raise money. The government demanded a ransom of 1 million naira, equivalent to $655 per captive, media in Nigeria reports. Elsewhere, the worst-case scenario of famine is currently playing out in the Gaza Strip, a UN-backed global food security experts warn. New assessment by the Integrated Food Security First Classification IPC says there is a mounting evidence that widespread starvation, malnutrition, and disease are driving a rise in hunger-related death among the 2.1 million population. The Integrated Food Security First Classification says immediate action must be taken to end the hostilities and allow for an independent large-scale life-saving humanitarian response. Finally, a gunman wielding a rifle has stormed a skyscraper in the heart of New York, killing 4 people before shooting himself dead. The attacker, 27-year-old Shane Tamura of Las Vegas, walked into an office block on Mathanan's Park Avenue on Monday evening and opened fire in the lobby before taking off a lift to 33rd floor to continue his spray. 4 people were killed, including a New York City police officer, Darul Islam, 36, who was working security at the time, said. Those are some of the stories trending in Africa and beyond. Back to you, my colleague Baria Johnson.
Thank you, Madrama. Up next, sports news with Emmanuel Joseph Akile.
The England women's football team will take part in an open top bus parade in central London on Tuesday after their Euro 2025 victory over Spain. The procession along the mall will begin at 12:10 before a ceremony at the Queen Victoria Memorial in front of Buckingham Palace. Fans began to gather along the route in the early hours of the morning, traveling from different places. The celebrations will also be broadcast live across the BBC, ITV and Sky. On Monday, the Lionesses were greeted by jubilant crowds as they landed back in the UK before attending a reception at Downing Street hosted by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. Sunderland are set to sign midfielder Granit Xhaka from Bayern Leverkusen for an initial €13 million with a potential $4 million in add-ons. The 32-year-old is now expected to travel to complete a medical and sign a 3-year contract at the Stadium of Light. Swiss international Xhaka will be returning to the Premier League, having spent 7 years at Arsenal. He made 297 appearances in all competitions for the Gunners, winning 2 FA Cup trophies and briefly acting as the club's captain before he left for Leverkusen in 2023. And finally, British number 1 Emma Raducanu continued her fine form in North America with a routine win against Elena Gabriela Ruse at the Canadian Open. Having reached the semi-finals at the Washington Open last week, the 22-year-old carried that momentum into her match with Romania's Ruse winning 6-2 and 6-4. She will face 32nd seed American Peyton Stearns in the second round. But fellow Brighton Katie Bolter fell at the first handle, losing 6-1 and 7-5 against Mexico's Renata Zarazua. That's all from the world of sport.
This is iRadio News, and to end this bulletin, here's a recap of the headlines. The Commission of Kajukeji County in Central Equatoria State says thousands of civilians have been displaced and several others fear dead following an alleged attack by the Ugandan People's Defense Forces in Kangabu, Payam-2 yesterday. A lawmaker has called for the immediate summoning of the Minister of Finance and Planning and the Governor of the Bank of South Sudan to explain delays in salary payments for government workers, including MPs. And 3 men were stabbed to death in Morobo County, Central Equatoria State by men in SSPDF uniform over the weekend. That's the end of iRadio Afternoon News. If there is a story or an event you would like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message on +211 925 287870. It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba, like our Facebook page iRadio, subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic at 1:30. I am Baria Johnson. Thank you for listening.